This is Nikko, a guest on the Jessica Fury podcast. Tune in every Monday for new episodes.
Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Today we have Nikko Santo Pietro. He is an agent with the agency, and I wanted to bring him on not because he's the internet's heartthrob, but because he's a new agent, and he and I just really connected in a way of those that are newer in the business. Nikko, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jessica.
Yeah, of course. I'm so glad that you're here. I wanted to go back to the beginning. So you're from LA?
I'm from LA.
Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood? Like, what was it like? What was your upbringing?
Let me channel childhood Nikko for a second. Yeah, upbringing was great. I grew up here in LA, and it was, LA is a city that's known for having a lot of traffic. And I think until you're like at driving age, like your parents are almost like your like servants because they have to take you everywhere. There's no short distances in LA. You know, I've lived all over the place, and I would say LA is just one of those cities where you're committing at least 30 minutes one way to get to a destination. Kind of no matter where you live in the city, just because there's so many different areas within LA. So growing up was a lot of family time, a lot of at home time. I grew up with a younger sister. She's 3 years younger than me. And we grew up around Mulholland and Beverly Glen, and it was up in the hills, and it was pretty nature centric, which was nice. But for the most part, it was fairly normal, and we just spent a lot of time together as a family.
So you guys would spend time in nature? Is that what you guys would do?
I mean, the house itself like was nature. Like our backyard was like hillside and was like it didn't really feel like LA. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. And your dad was in the restaurant business, right?
He was, yeah.
And
he was.
Was it something that he brought that into the home, or was it something separate? Like, did you guys do cooking in the home?
Oh yeah. It was just it was an everyday thing. Like we had a full blown garden. We had food that we grow for the family and also for friends. I mean, we had a bunch of fruit trees. We had a tomato garden. We used to make sauce every year. He's Italian. I'm Italian. Oh, wow. And, it was an everyday thing. Wake up, and his whole kitchen, he built the house from scratch, and one of the check boxes for him was having an industrial kitchen. So we're talking like, full stainless steel hood fan with dual woks, like these big standalone woks, 2 of them. We had a big grill. He had a stove that must have had, I don't know, 12 to 18 burners on it, 2 big ovens, a salamander to like sear stuff. So the way and also the chopping setup was like, I mean, it was just like incredible. And yeah, I really believe whatever environment you're put in, you're going to thrive if the environment nurtures a certain skill set. And that was definitely the case for cooking and me growing up. We had this massive kitchen, so naturally we'd spend time there. And when you have the proper tools, things become a lot easier to get good at. So I would help him chopping, I'd help him sauteing. And when I was 16 and 17, getting home from a night out at 2 a.m., I was firing up the woks and had the deep fryers going with French fries, and make hot dogs with our friends. And it was just like, it was a full industrial kitchen. It was like having, a fast food restaurant kitchen in your home. Mm-hmm. So we would just go and throw down late night food and meals. But yeah, growing up, it was always like, watching what he does and him having those restaurants, the stuff that he makes is like, oh my God, everyone who eats it just loves it. It's
I love
the
that.
Best food.
What were some of the restaurants that were in LA?
So he had 2. He had one that at one point he had 8 restaurants called Santo Pietro's. It was a very popular restaurant. The most popular one was up at the Glen Center. I don't know if you know, where Vibrato is. Yes. And that center. So one was in there, and this was in the late 90s when he was early 80s, late 90s. And they were just like all the rage back then. I mean, I talk with people who are like 60 now, 50, 60, and they notice my last name. Like I'll do door knocking, or, I'll say my last name, or someone will see a sign or my business card and they'll say, oh, are you related to like Santo Pietro's the restaurant? And I'm like, yeah, it's my dad. So,
That's cool.
and that gets a lot of like, a lot of attention, which is kind of funny and cool.
Do you get more attention from that? Or do you get more attention when people say to you that, your mom is Vanna White?
You know what? Funny enough, I would say more notice because my last name is literally like with me everywhere. So I'd say more people notice that. I fly pretty under the radar for all you guys who know that my mom is Vanna White. Yeah, keep it pretty low key. So, but you can't hide your last name. You can't hide it. So I'd say I get more people, sharing about that for sure. Yeah, I had a thought, but it was a fleeting thought.
But I have to ask this because you and I were talking about this, and prior to being in real estate, I have a background of like fitness and wellness, and I've worked with a lot of like talent, celebrities, high profile people, just being around them. I've been around their kids, and one of the things when you and I were talking about your mom is the first thing that you said to me, like, my mom is so down to earth. Like, she's from the South. And what is something that you have taken from your parents that's like a tool that you're continuing to apply? Like, what is something that you've learned by being so hands-on with both of your parents as a kid that you're now applying now, or something that you've learned that you always think about, like, wow, that's something that my mom did, or that's something that my dad did?
Yeah, I'm going to give you a longer answer to that question.
Go for it.
So my mom and my dad are two completely different people. So my dad is a ladies' man. He's just a man of the town. He's a restaurateur. He's a big personality. He can be very firm. You either love him or you hate him, and he either loves you or hates you. So he's a New Yorker. He's Italian. He's got this fire to him, and he's got this magnetic personality. He's a visionary. He's a big thinker. He's not afraid to dive in headfirst to opportunities. So that's my dad. He's like the gunslinger. And then I've got my mom, who's like super down to earth. She's like so loving. Like, who you see on TV and who she is in reality is the exact same person. So you've got like literally sweeter than apple pie. And then you have a guy who's just like shoot from the hip, like everybody. He polarizes people. Like he's just, and I love both of them. I love both of them. I talk frequently with both of them. We have great relationships. So when we're talking about what I learned from my parents, I'd say I have taken a little bit of both parents. Like on my dad's side, I would say like the big thinking, the visionary side. Ironically, the fashion. Like my mom is cool wearing like she doesn't have to wear designer stuff. She's super casual, cool. Like my dad, on the other hand, like he'll wear like, he'll always dress to the nines and like have the most funky and different fashion and cool fashion. So I've implemented some of that from him, the cooking, the more, maybe more personable side. And then from my mom, it's as simple as kindness. I mean, she's just the salt of the earth. She's so sweet. So I carry that with me wherever I go, and it's served me very well.
I love that. I think it's so sweet. And, and I'm going to touch back on that, exactly what you said, because I don't normally know a lot of times that the child is the parent of somebody who's like known, like Vanna, like your mom. It's usually the person that I know and then I meet that they have their children. And you guys did this cooking video that went viral on Instagram, which is funny because it takes both parts of like your dad and your mom, and you're doing it in uniform. But you were telling me that you went to Missouri, you were living in Missouri, and that you wanted to have a bread business prior to being in real estate. Can you speak on that? Because it's so polar opposite, and it's like you're making bread and you want to sell bread, and then you're going to do real estate. So I want to hear on like, what was the time period that was going on that you were going to transition into having a bread business?
Yeah, well, I'll give you kind of the backstory on how that evolved and why I had a bakery and how that all came to fruition. It all started at the University of Arizona, the party school, and going to this school where my reason for going to University of Arizona was to enjoy myself, have a great time, really was nonchalant about my grades and my life. And I got really poor marks that first year and a half there at University of Arizona. And like I was saying earlier on the podcast, we grew up with fruit trees, and we grew up gardening and cooking. There was a great sense of connection and community that I felt from that lifestyle. So I met a friend of mine who had a garden farm community that you got to get in my head here for a second. Here's a kid who's living in the dorms, had an amazing life growing up in Los Angeles, and with my dad being exposed to so much with food and people and community and dinner parties and being in the room with these like really interesting business people and, models and this and that. He had this life that was so big. So going to college, being in a dorm, going there for the wrong reasons to party, it created, this person that was like very unfulfilled with my life. I was not happy at all at University of Arizona. And it was because I wasn't focused on school. I didn't really have any directions. I knew I wanted to be in business at some capacity. The classes weren't resonating with me. I wasn't prepared for college. I didn't have all the right tools at that time. So when I discovered the farm, it was this kid who was struggling with, I don't want to call it depression, but I was lost. I didn't feel like myself. I felt very out of place. There was a lot of these things swirling around. So when I got onto this farm, it was like a breath of fresh air. It was like, okay, wow, I remember what it was like growing up, and I remember all these wonderful things. So me and all my friends at the farm, we'd watch documentaries that would really inspire us. It would be like documentaries about agriculture and our food system, and how there's such a need to make a difference in that space, which is what drove me and inspired me on a 7-year journey in agriculture, and ultimately graduating summa cum laude, which I'm so proud of myself for, at Oregon State University. So going from depression, feeling lost, to graduating with the highest marks that you can graduate with in a degree that I believed in. I think that's something that I'll always look at and say, wow, that's a major accomplishment of mine. And then from there, we were talking about the bread business. So I was what you'd call a hippie, and I was granola, so to speak. And I was, out on the farm, and, I was just totally natural, and, all natural deodorant and organic produce, and, all of the, whatever you wear, the hippies wear. So I was doing all of that. And, it really just hit me, like, while I was, again, back to documentaries, these things are so freaking powerful. Was watching one about bread and how there's so many ingredients in bread. I mean, there's something like 37 ingredients. Given a lot of those are like fortifications and vitamins and whatever's put in there, but some are preservatives, and some are unnecessary. And it got me inspired. I'm like, there's something wrong with this. And I was like, I'm going to master sourdough. So I started playing around with my recipe, and after a year it was perfected. And then people started to eat it, and demand grew. And then I started to sell it. And within a month, it went from selling just 2 loaves, 4 loaves, 10 loaves, 20 loaves, move off the farm, move into a house with more ovens, 40 loaves, and then during the holidays, 60 loaves a day.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And but it goes to show that, like, when there's something that people like and there's a lack of it in the place that you're at, they'll come. People will come. When there's a product or something that just outshines by a landslide anything else, people will go to it. So that's a bit about me and the bread business and how that all started.
And when did you just stop? Like, when did you just stop and you're like, okay, I'm either done, I don't want to do this anymore? Because just to chime in of what you said before, I believe that energetically, when you have a passion for something, like, you're just going to just do it. You're not going to be thinking about, what do I need to do? What's going to make me money? How do I do this? Like, I think there's this natural flow of more intuitive action as opposed to resistance. Like, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this.
Yeah.
It's so natural.
Well, it was very intuitive to continue with the bread business. I was actually looking at buildings to buy in Cape Girardeau, Missouri for $89,000. I look at that building now. I'm like, I should have just bought the building. I would have made money on the building itself. But I was looking at these different buildings and super cute, really. I just saw the whole life kind of picture unfolding. But back to what we were saying earlier about my degree in agriculture, I was going to have to sacrifice that. I was at the point where I was half a semester core. I forget what systems we were on at Oregon State, but I was halfway through to where I caught it in time, but my grades would have been severely affected because I was spending so much time. I mean, baking 60 loaves of sourdough bread every day in your home is like, that's a full-time job. I mean, you're waking up super early to get it done. And I just didn't have the time for school. So I caught it halfway through. I said, you know what? These classes that I'm taking right now, there's something that you could do to where those grades don't get implemented into your GPA. So I like basically canceled all my classes and like redid them the following quarter. And I really had like a tough decision to make. It's like, am I going to go all into bread baking and invest in a bakery and take the leap? Or am I going to finish my degree, which is something that's really important to me and something that I know I'm going to look back on and be like, because I had worked so hard to get from really bad grades to where they were. So I'd put in like a couple of years of work or 3 years of work, 3 years of work. And I was like, am I going to give that all up for these next 6 months? Like just not doing it and like never having that and never having my degree. It wasn't so much about the actual content or the education. For me, it was more about like, I feel a sense of purpose here and I feel like this is a huge accomplishment. And I just, I put the bakery on pause and finished my degree. And then that's what got me into produce, the produce industry, which got me into real estate.
What was the thing that led to the real estate from the produce? Like, what was the sort of like the tipping point?
So I was about to do dinner with a friend. I was working in the produce industry, and the produce industry is a 4 a.m. type of industry. Like you're up early to get to the produce industry. So I'm at this industry where I'm going to sleep at 8 o'clock at night. My social life is like, just totally squashed because, you can't really maintain a social life if you're going to sleep at 8 o'clock, especially if you're getting home around 4 p.m. So working longer hours in the produce industry. And I had a dinner planned, like super rare, fancy dinner in Beverly Hills. Like I'm never really doing that. I'm in the produce, and now in real estate, we do more of those, but in produce, it was a lot less of that. And it was one random night that I'm all dressed up and I'm driving down the hill to get to Beverly Hills. And I call my buddy who I'm having dinner with, and he's like, wait, we have dinner tonight? And I'm like, dude, yeah, we have dinner. What do you mean? He's like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I didn't put it in the calendar. I can't do it tonight. So I'm like dressed to the nines. I never go out. And I'm like, you know what? You gotta make it work, right? I'm like, I'm not gonna go home and like, I smell like cologne. I'm not gonna go to sleep smelling like cologne and, hang up my suit after getting it. Like I can't do it. So I went. I'm like, you know the spot to go if you are alone and you're looking for a casual time to meet some people. You go to Wally's. You go to the wine bar. So I thought, I'm gonna go get a glass or two of wine.
Wait, where was your dinner with your friend?
I don't even remember anymore.
Did you? Yeah. You just like canceled?
We had it all set. Okay. I think it was like Steak 48 or something. Okay. Like we were gonna go to a nice restaurant.
Okay.
So I end up at Wally's Wine Bar, sitting next to Jimmy Heckenberg, who's a realtor in LA, a very, very big one. And he was sitting next to a developer. And when I sat down, he said, "You're not a beautiful woman, but you'll do." So he's like, and we started talking, and the chemistry was there. We had a very personable conversation. And while I was in the produce industry, I thought, this isn't going to be my forever. I love it. I love the people here. I can't work like this for another 10, 20 years. It wouldn't have worked for me. So I had a couple exit strategies. I had a fragrance company that I was beginning to develop, which was very similar to the produce industry. You've got a product, you've got margins, you've got markups, etc. And I just said, I told Jimmy about all these things that I was doing. And he's like, dude, why the fuck are you not in real estate? I was like, I've never thought about it. He's like, you come from like a well-known family, like you're handsome, you're personable, like you would crush it at real estate. And it really like got me thinking. I'm like, maybe I would crush it at real estate. So that's how I got.
Do you know the broke agent?
No.
You don't know the broke agent?
No, what is that?
So there's this guy, and he started an Instagram called The Broke Agent, and he does all these memes on real estate. Everything is like a meme on real estate. It's funny, it's hysterical. And when you said like, oh, you should be in real estate, you come from a well-known family, you're good looking, you're charming, you have such a personality. And then this guy, the broke agent, would do a meme where it's like, maybe like looking in the mirror and being like, I'm all these things. Where are my sales? Or I'm all these things. Where are my clients? Like, this was supposed to be my ticket in the door. And what's so funny is that I'm among many good-looking, personable, attractive people's, they're attractive to people. Like I was telling you on the phone, like I don't struggle with people. Making a connection to a person is the easiest thing I've ever had to do. It's so simple, but it was so funny what you just said. It made me think of like the broke agent. And so now you're with the agency, and you're in real estate, you're with the agency. And I wanted to share this, but I was like, oh, let me share it on the podcast because it would be so perfect for where you and I are out in our business. And you and I, one of the things that we really connect with is creating content. Like creating content is something that I love, and I love to just do. I don't struggle with it. I just it's very easy. So the agency has something called the Forum, and they have it every single year. And are you familiar with like Forum, what it is? So I got with the agency literally 2 weeks before Forum. It must have been about 2-3 weeks before Forum. And I was like, well, what is this? So somebody with the company, because I'm like very out there, I like to meet people, I like to build relationships. So Emil, do you know Emil Hart in Calabasas?
Oh, yes.
So he had this beautiful listing in Calabasas, and they had this giant masquerade, a twilight masquerade. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to go. And I met some of the people at the time. And I got introduced to Mauricio and a bunch of other people with the agency. And now I've only been with the company for about 2 weeks. And everyone was like, are you going to Forum? And I was just like, what is this? Yeah. Like, what is this? And they were like, no, just go. Like, don't, because they tell you months in advance. So I decided I'm going to go to Forum. I don't have the same thing that brought me into LA. I didn't have an apartment. I didn't have a car. I didn't have work. I just had cash, and I just came here. So with Forum, I didn't have a hotel I was going to stay with. I didn't have a ticket. So I went to Forum. And at Forum, they have all these different people speaking. They'll talk about, business stuff, relationship stuff, mindset stuff. Like everything was always about everything but real estate. And somebody that came on the stage, and I don't remember who it was, they spoke about that it's great that you're doing real estate, but you're looking to create a connection with another person. Like if you're into gardening, or if you're into cooking, or if you're into golf. And it was in that moment that this little light bulb in my head just sort of went off. You know, one of the things that went off was I come from a background of wellness and fitness. When I came into LA, I was branding myself as a personality. They used to hire people, I told you this on the phone, personalities they used to hire on television to speak for whatever the product that they were talking. Or they would hire a woman as a host for a television show. Shout out to your mom. They would hire a woman to be the personality. That's what they were called. Now influencers has become a little bit more saturated with the word because you're like, but anyway, so at that time, I knew that I love to be on a mic. I love to be on a mic. It's so normal. It's so comfortable. It's so comfortable for me to be on a mic in front of a camera. So I was like, this is great because real estate is a business of relationships. It's literally a business of relationships. And if you don't have a frame of mind, or for me, if you don't have an energy of something that I want to be around, then people are not going to want to do business with you. So it's like, what is a component of both of those things? And it's like, how do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your mind? What do you do on a day-to-day basis to build that foundation? So I was like, this is brilliant. I'm going to do a podcast.
I love that.
So that's where I knew when I had chills running down my spine. I remember it. I was in the audience and I have a notes section and I write little notes down when I hear certain things in meetings and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, Jessica, you have to do this podcast. I only did like a couple episodes at one time, but I was like, you have to do this because there's people in real estate that, and now I'm going to turn it back to you. It's like, we were talking about this. I wish the things that I learned in real estate, people told me before I got into real estate. I had to figure those things out myself, and I'm still figuring those things out myself. But I wish that somebody told me, hey, it's a very expensive business. Oh, yeah. Hey, it's not handed to you, regardless of who your parents are. Right. Hey, it's this and this and this. Like it's you plant the seed, you water it, you keep watering it every single day. Don't forget about it. The money is in the follow-up. So It's like, what are some of the things that now you've started to really realize by being a newer agent that you're like, okay, I didn't learn what this was. And now I'm applying it and I'm putting my energy into it and it's starting to work for me. What are some of those things?
Yeah. I think, first of all, you're amazing on camera.
That's sweet.
And you're amazing in front of the mic.
That's sweet.
And
that's very sweet.
Love you've already answered the question just by doing what you're doing. This is the answer to most people's question. It's consistency. What are we on is this the 59th episode? Mm-hmm. 59 episodes.
Shout out to the 58 people that came on. Some of them were doubles.
Yeah. So absolutely crushing. Yeah, it's just consistency.
That's
I think
awesome.
for me, I'm starting to notice, like I've had a few leads come in through social media. I'm really consistent on that. I'm paying social media managers pretty well to help me out with certain things. And you know, it's a big load to carry, especially just getting into the industry and just such a low transaction volume market. It's a tough time, and like you said, sure, it's nice to have my mom and my dad who basically have lived here in LA forever and have friends, but that's ironically that's like a fraction of business. You know what I mean? That's not like, it's just like, oh, now I have a bunch of listings and I'm making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, people get into real estate. Why? For the money, right? That's why people initially get into real estate. It makes a lot of sense. It's like, oh, you mean I just have to sell a $4 million house and I'm going to make $100,000 commission? Like most houses in LA are around $4 million, right? Are like $2 to $4 million. So the numbers are like, I can make someone's entire salary in one sale. That's the hook that gets people into this industry. And what makes people survive in this industry is consistency and persistence and changing the perspective from I'm doing this for the money to I am a liaison to somebody to help them get a home or help them sell a home in a situation where they need to sell a home or they're really excited to buy a home. And my job, your job, is to protect them during that process and to find the right home for them and to lead them in the right direction. We see inventory every day. We know when something's on a busy street. We know what that means for resale value. We know when something's on a home's on a cul-de-sac and it's a quiet street and it's a quaint house and it's a one-story house and it's got a view and it's priced right. Like, people who are not in our industry don't look at those qualities and go, ding, 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 this is the house. So our job is not to just grab our commission check. Oh yeah, this is a great house. It's on Benedict Canyon. No hate to people who are on Benedict Canyon, but those houses are hard to sell because those homes they're on one of the busiest streets in the hills. So I had somebody come to me and they were like, hey, I want to buy this house. And
on Benedict?
On Benedict. And they said, I'm working with the listing agent, and they said not to involve another agent. And, I just wanted to get your thoughts if there's any value to bringing you in as a buyer's agent. And part of me was like, every part of me, just because I feel like my moral compass is really just straight up, like I'm going to advise people properly. But like, it made me think like, here I could make $40,000 by just like, yeah, it's great. Like, have me sign the paperwork and let's do the deal and whatever. But I just told her, I'm like, why are you buying this property? I asked her, and she was like, well, as an investment property for my daughter. And I'm like, this is not the property that I would buy as an investment property for your daughter.
That's an LA thing. I hear that like in other parts of people buying homes for their children is a very LA thing. That's a very LA thing.
She doesn't even live in LA.
I know.
She lives somewhere completely different.
I live in the Palisades.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get it twisted. I'm not going to leave the Palisades. You will not get me in the Valley. You will not get me in the Valley. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe in Calabasas.
Yeah.
But it's very normal in LA.
So, and that's like also the level of like individuals here. Like that's the socioeconomic status here is like, I'm going to buy, and she's going to buy a couple properties, which is really cool and exciting. And I'm happy for her. But it also goes to show that, a quick buck is not how you survive in this industry. It's proper advice, but that becomes, at the end of the day, you can't wake up and go, money, 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 money. I'm so motivated. Money's great. Money, 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 money. That's not how people stay motivated. People stay motivated because of purpose, because of care for other people, because of feeling a sense of community, feeling a sense of reward. Okay, I did the right thing here. That's what keeps people going in this industry. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. I've been looking for a property for the last 6 months. And there hasn't been, I said, when there's a property that I would buy for myself, I will advise you to buy that property. And that's how I think that you keep clients for a long time and you build trust. And she's been forever grateful that the fact that I told her all those things. And but also, use a buying agent, use a buyer's agent, use an agent to purchase a home. They know so much more about this than you do. You're not in the industry. Like, please use an expert. Like, if I were to buy a plane, I cannot afford a plane, but if I were to buy a plane, I'd be using a broker. And I'd be using a broker because they can tell me the do's and don'ts of purchasing a plane. Oh, this one has a bunch of miles on it, and the engine's about to go out in another 20, 30 hours of flight. And, that's stuff that I don't know. Is that stuff that somebody's going to tell me if they're not representing me? That you don't really know. You can't really trust people. So I forgot what you had asked, but yeah.
No, that's okay. But one of the things that's like sort of being, I've been in the business for a few years now. And one of the things that's like really helped me is like being able to ask for help, but being able to be very specific with what you're asking for help. Like I'm very intentional when I ask people stuff. I'm not just like, how do you do this? I'm asking where I'm very intentional because one, I'm respectful of people's time. Above all, I respect your time and the space you're giving me, regardless if it's 5 minutes. And I'll let someone know who's a producing agent. I just need 5 minutes and that's it. So I have a couple higher end clients, buyers that I've been working with. And I called someone and I was like, hey, first I'm like doing it. I'm just kind of like getting to know them. So I called someone and they were like, Jessica, just be natural, be yourself. But I want you to remember the way that you make connections with people with friends, do the same exact thing with them. Start to ask them questions to find out who they are, what type of home that they're looking for. What's the first thing they want to feel when they walk into the home?
Right.
So I have this one buyer I've been working with for 1.5 years. He's very, very meticulous and specific, and he's Chinese. So the whole entire house has to comply with feng shui. So I've spoken to other agents like Drew Fenton and a couple of those agents that people have been able to connect me to ask them. And they were like, oh, they're the hardest. They're the most challenging. So now I'm talking to my client, talking to my buyer. And I said to him, if you were a home, if you were to put your personality into a home, what would it be? And he's like, well, I'm an Aries. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, what does that mean? He's like, I'm fiery. Like, when I walk in the house, I want to just pull me in. Like, I don't want to go anywhere else but my own home. So one of my girlfriends is an Aries. So I texted her the next day and I was like, can you tell me a little bit more about what it's like to be an Aries and like as a place of like real estate? But it was just in that moment where it was like, I wasn't asking him like, is this the right house? Like, I asked him, hey, are you okay if I show you homes at a higher price point than what you're looking for? Because one of the things that the agent has told me, and now I'm going to bring it back to you, like one of the things that the agent told me, they were like, always ask their permission. Don't assume that they're spending up to 20 million, just throwing a number out there. Don't just assume you can send them something else and they're going to be like, great, show me a $40 million home. Ask their permission. Like, hey, there's some other stuff that's out of your price point. They're not going to be insulted. They're going to respect it.
Right.
And they're going to appreciate it. And Mauricio is such a leader. Like, that's one of the things that I love about him. He's such a leader and he's so genuine. And what are some of the things as having him as a mentor that you've learned from him?
Yeah, there are deeper underlying currents that drive an emotional attachment to a property other than the bed bath count, other than the finish work, other than all that. It's the relationship that you've created with your buyer, talking about, star signs. Like, I think but it's the exact perfect example of that. We're building personal relationships here. I have one client in particular that I have just gone above and beyond for, and he is so grateful, and I am so grateful to have him be looking for a home through me, and I found him an amazing lease while he's looking, and we have this relationship to where it's almost like a father-son relationship. I mean, he's older than me. He's got a kid around my age, but we've been in the trenches together. We've seen dog shit inventory together. We've walked terrible homes together. We've seen things that were just an inch away from us actually pulling the trigger on, and going through all those highs and lows. What I think is important is really like, why is this person doing this? Why is this person purchasing a home right now? Or why is this person selling a home right now? And what is a win to them? What's a win to them? So if you're buying a home and you're a buyer, it's like, how do you feel like you've actually won? And back to Mauricio, he is the ultimate people person. He's such a personality. He's super knowledgeable about the industry. So I think his superpower is his ability to humanize people who he works with, to make people feel like people. And he does an amazing job at that. And also, not to mention, Mauricio, it's no surprise that he is the most skilled negotiator I've ever spoken with. We were, I won't go into too many details, but we got about 25% off of a property that the seller was firm on through negotiation strategies that he told me. And in these negotiations, because I'm sure you're probably interested to know how we did that.
Hold on. Go ahead, finish. You don't know what I'm thinking.
No. But of course not. No, I'm not a mind reader by any means. But yeah, so we ended up just, you have to be prepared to lose a property if you're going to heavily negotiate a property. And that's kind of how we went into it. And the buyer was okay with that. And we did work it out to where, you know, they were on the market for a longer time. It was a property that needed construction. Construction costs are up 35% since COVID. You know, I was just basically telling the agent all the reasons why we were coming in at that price, and that we were just going to take it off our books if we can't even get close to that number. So I just went in like, hey, we don't want to waste your time. And, you know, if this doesn't pencil for you, like, it's totally okay, but this is where we're at. And, you know, the agent got really mad, and was like yelling at me over the phone and this and that. And I said, look, I get it. And, you know, we're at a point where we can't waste your time, and we don't want to offend you or anything. And you know, if it's a waste of your seller's time, we'll back off. He goes, well, it's not really a waste of my seller's time. And then we wrote the offer and it got accepted and we closed escrow. But it was that like strategy of like being detached from the situation that really helped us get the deal that we needed. Yeah. I'm sure that you've, there's so many different ways to negotiate.
Can you share some of those negotiation tips?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like it just depends. Every property is different. Like you have some properties where there's going to be a multiple offer situation, in which case it's really tough to negotiate. Your only leverage in a situation like that is really, you know, having great proof of funds and like a buyer who's willing to pay more than the asking price typically, which isn't much of a negotiation at all. Then there's properties that have sat on the market for a longer time. And I think it's just like having a keen eye and understanding the comps around and pointing out the reasons why you're coming in at that number. You can't negotiate a number out of thin air that you'd like to pay. Like it has to be grounded in some sense of reality. And you could usually get a better deal. Like the areas where you can get a better deal is like where something's been on the market for a longer time and they're overpriced. And then like, let's say, for example, a home's that's on the market for $2 million. It's realistically worth $1.5 million. And, you know, we arrive at an offer price at $1.3 million that gets accepted. Now to go from, and these are just random numbers, but I'm just using it as an example. So like at $2 million, they haven't gotten any bites. They've been on the market 180 days. Maybe there's some deficiencies with the property. Maybe there's not much of a yard. Maybe the house is needing updating. Maybe there's a million reasons why. Now finding meticulously all those reasons and then sharing them with the agent and telling them, hey, listen, you're overpriced. Like you haven't gotten any offers because of A, B, C, and D. And I don't know if this is coming from like the seller. It might be, but you know, this is our number. This is where we're at. We're really firm on that number. And, you know, basically giving them the list of reasons why, because ultimately the agent is going to share with the seller all the things that you've shared with them and pull comps, like show comps, like comps too. Like there's a little wiggle room in comps. Like when you pull comps, it's like a comp could be, you know, you could comp something to look higher or look lower. Like it just depends on how you cut it. So, you know, comping obviously on the lower end when you're negotiating, like you're sharing comps and you're reinforcing the idea that you're right. So then when you go in, it doesn't seem like shocking that you're going in at that number. So that's like just one of the ways that I would go into a deal, and it's all based off of facts, but we're getting a good deal for our client.
Facts, reading the room.
Yep.
Sometimes when I'm in front of people, one, I like to mirror them. Two, I like them to lead, and sort of I can shift to the person instead of shifting to me and like coming in the way that me with my expertise, what I need to say without being so, and I always come from a place of energy. Like if I'm energetically putting too much, then a person can feel that. If I'm talking too much and if I'm not giving a pause from the time that I finish for them to respond, if I answer too quickly, if I don't look at them when I talk, like little tiny things that I've started to like, and somebody who we talk about like being newer in the business, like I'll just look up like random videos on business and YouTube and real estate, it's like understanding the person, because no two people are ever going to be the same, even though you may get similar situations. No two escrows are ever the same. And, you know, and you said this when we first started, you know, where it's like, sometimes you got to be grounded in kindness. Mm-hmm. Like screaming on the phone, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, you know, but you quoted this thing on your Instagram, and I want to read it because I love it. Like I love this. And it sounds so crazy that I would actually love this. Challenges are part of everyday life and in real estate, but how you handle them is what truly sets you apart. Like I've gone through so many different challenges, and most of my stuff has always come from my foundation. Like, what is my foundation? Taking time to myself. What are some of those things that, whether challenges in business or challenges in relationships, that you've really you're like, let me come back to me, and what are some of those tools or tips or things that you do?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely, I ground myself in my mornings by reading, by exercising, by getting back to square one. I think the activities that we do on a daily basis affect who we are. And if we are doing activities that are enhancing our minds, are helping our health, those are naturally going to help us be our best selves. And when we're our best selves, when we're faced with challenges, they become a lot easier. And a lot easier to figure out what the solution is. And a lot of the times the solution to challenges is just like, you know, you get knocked down. I mean, this industry is an industry of rejection. Like if you are a real estate agent and you're just starting out like we are, like, you know, I mean, it's usually bad news. Like 95% of the time it's bad news, and it's dealing with bad news. Like this industry has calloused me in a way where I don't think any other thing has. I think it's a super tough industry. Mm-hmm. And I think that how do you overcome the challenges? Number one, take a deep breath. Number two, like find a sense of community with other agents. Like find a sense of, hey, like we're all in this together, and it's okay if we get yelled at on a cold call. And that's the easy rejection, is getting yelled at. Or it's okay if somebody cusses you out on their doorstep. Like those are easy cases of rejection. Like tough cases of rejection is when you've lost for the third time in a multiple offer situation and your buyer is doubting if you're the right agent to help them. Mm-hmm. That's a tough situation. To feel a sense that, hey, we had an offer come in that was great and they just retracted it because we took too long to respond. That's tough rejection. And having the property sit on the market for a longer period of time. Those are tough pills to swallow. Mm-hmm. And we have to swallow those pills every day. And it's only amplified and enhanced by this market. This market is creating a situation where it's really tough for agents. I mean, I'm not going to come on here and just be like, this is a great industry. This is awesome. This is easy. Like that's a tough industry, but ultimately consistency and tackling these things with kindness and also having a foundation for what works and what brings leads in. Because if your lead pipeline is lacking, you're going to feel it. Like when you get rejected, you're going to feel it so much more if that's your only lead. But if you have 5 leads like that or 10 leads like that, you're not going to feel it as much. So, and it's not just like, that might sound shallow, but it's really, in this industry, there's so many things that could go wrong at every point of a transaction that it's just really good to be casting a wide net with who you work with and having new people come in. So I think that's another way to mitigate the challenges of the industry, is like building out a really strong lead pipeline.
I like that. And I like that you sort of added that, one, it's not that easy, but kind of initially what you and I have been connecting with, which is like, you know, when you're newer or newer-ish, like someone on the phone was like, Jess, you're new until 10 years.
Yeah.
They were like, don't even, I spoke to someone last week and they were like, call me after the 5-year mark. Like when you're after the 5-year mark, then you're in it. You're in it in so many different ways. Like you may get a good break after 3 years. You may get a good sale at 4 years. But they're like, the business, I've had several people on here, they're like 10 years, 5 years, like the foundation of it. And I mean, I have to sometimes like tell myself like one day at a time. Mm-hmm. But I like that you did speak on it from such a place of honesty. And I like that. And I'm grateful that you came on today. I like to ask my guests 3 questions before that they leave. And one of them you sort of answered right now, but I'm very big in the morning routine. So what is a non-negotiable in your morning routine that sets you up for the day?
Exercise. I don't read every morning. I don't exercise every morning, but the majority of mornings it's wake up. I like an early morning. I'm always my best at 5:30 waking up. And I'll wake up and I'll head to the gym and I'll eat my breakfast and I'll start my day. And it's usually me sitting at my desk and whatever the tune of the day is, I will tackle. And that could be something in my calendar that needs to get done, or it could be something else. So I'll usually that's my focus time. My mornings are like, yeah. And after a good exercise, like I'm razor sharp.
Yeah, I agree with you. Can you leave the listeners with one suggestion or piece of advice that they can apply to their daily routine, their business, their relationship, or their social media?
Yes, listen to Jessica's podcast. It's absolutely amazing.
That's so sweet of you. Nobody says that. What are 3 qualities peers of yours would say about you?
That I'm kind, I'm straightforward, and I'm silly.
I like that. Where could people find you? Plug yourself.
You could follow me on Instagram. It's at Nikko Show, at NIKKOSHOW.
Thank you so much for being here, Nikko. Thank you for being here. Guys, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks.